Okay, guys, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I think it's 10 o'clock. This is the exam review for exam one. I am videotaping this next 50 minutes because we have multiple sections of this course, and the professor asked if I would videotape this and provide it for her class, and also I will hopefully be able to upload it to Blackboard so you guys can look at it over the weekend as well, just to work through it. All right? So don't say anything you don't want to hear So the first today's question is a couple of parts. Strategy versus business model. Three-level management. And role each level plays. In relation and implementation. Ask question one. Strategy is a theory on how to compete. You can also say a set of ideas. Business model is that set of ideas or theory put into action. How are they similar? They both strive to achieve the firm's goals. Differences. You can have one overall strategy, but have multiple business models that fit within that strategy. One overall strategy with multiple business models. So what do I mean by that? Walmart's overall strategy, the three generic business strategies are low cost, differentiation, and then niche or focus. Walmart's overall strategy is a low cost or cost leadership strategy, right? We discussed this a couple weeks ago. is that. It is the theory on how to compete. So what do they do to implement that strategy? Yes,
Who's WM?
Walmart.
Oh.
Got time?
You asking us?
Yes,
Like what
what, give me an example of what Walmart does
they
to implement that strategy.
they're real cheap, you know.
So
Price wise, that's their advantage.
through, efficient distribution.
Right.
Who's it at? Logistics and distribution system that focuses on cutting costs. Buying power. They,
How about location, when they have like different stores?
if you tell me that ways that they implement that strategy is that they choose rural markets where the cost of real estate is cheaper than it would be in a high-end area, right? That falls under this idea of cost leadership. They make arrangements with people or companies that have similar strategies, cost leadership strategies, like McDonald's, Subway. Right? You'll never see a Starbucks in a Walmart, right? I don't think you will.
Why would they not do that?
So why would they not do that? Because Starbucks does not follow a cost leadership strategy. When you go to Walmart, the typical customer that goes to Walmart expects to buy low price goods. Might not be the cheapest, but they expect to gain a certain amount of value for that dollar. Whereas a person that might go to their competitor like Target is not as concerned with price. They are concerned with price, but not as concerned with price. Whereas that consumer that would go to a Starbucks is concerned with price, but not as concerned as the consumer that would go to McDonald's and get the mocha latte, wrapper sheet, whatever. Right. So I just went a long way explaining that strategy versus business model. Are we good? 3 levels of management are
Corporate.
corporate, business, and one more.
Function.
Function. And the corporate level strategy answers what question?
What do we do? Well, why do we do it?
How they're gonna carry out the vision and mission.
Corporate answers the question, what industry should we be in and where? Remember we talked about General Electric and how many different industries they were in. GE Appliances, GE Jet, or GE Engines, GE Finance, GE Healthcare. Those are all corporate level questions. What industry should we be in? So their goal is to find synergies amongst those industries. And where? What geographic locations should we be? Business level strategy answers the question that you guys are alluding to, is how do we compete in those chosen industries? When we talked about General Electric, we talked about the president of NBC Universal not concerned with what was going on in GE Lighting or GE Finance. They were concerned with their industry, which was media, so they are concerned with what is ABC doing, what is CBS doing, right? So how do I compete? And that's when that generic strategy has been being chosen. Whether we're going to be a differentiator or a cost leader, or we're going to focus on a certain niche of customer or a niche of the market segment. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I got a question about the Walmart.
Yes.
Like in a small town, you want to open up a business. Like how do you compete against a corporation like Walmart.
The short answer is you need to find a niche. Firms exist to fill a void. So you need to find that void, whatever that void is. The void might not be what you want to do. There are people that start companies not because it's their passion, but it's because there's a need. Which, we can talk about the rest of that later, but that would be my professional opinion. So in business is how to compete in that chosen industry. That's when you're trying to determine that generic business strategy, whether it's cost leadership or differentiation, and you focus on the competitors within that industry. The last level, third level of management is the functional level of management. But when you think function, you should think the functions in the organization. HR, marketing, operations, customer service, R&D. So these functional managers are trying to determine how can they support that overall business level strategy. How do we implement it? Like we mentioned earlier with Walmart, the functional manager for HR might develop a performance evaluation that focuses more on cost cutting and efficiency than customer service for their employees. Not that customer service isn't important, but our strategy is a cost leadership strategy, so we need to focus on, or that should be our primary focus, how do we drive cost out of the business? Does that make sense? Similar to the self-checkout lanes, right, as you see Walmart implemented here. You can have one employee handle 8 or 9 registers. That's a cost cutting. Yes.
I have a question on that example you just gave. Has Walmart, do you know, has maybe put into the equation of what that would occur with that self-checkout?
I can guarantee you yes. And so it becomes a cost loss proposition, right? Is it worth it? How much do you lose based on how much do you save? Similar to, you can take anything back to Walmart. Right? I don't care what it is. Right? They don't take it back. It doesn't matter. Oh, you give it. And it gets going. Because they've realized that the money or the financial losses that they might have occurred is not enough to offset the gains by you knowing the fact that you can buy it and take it back. It's not that big of an issue. I hate taking stuff back, but I'll take stuff back. No one can. We'll get that on tape, but so 3 levels of management. With that being said, the role that each level plays in formulation and implementation. There's one that's specifically in implementation. Which level is that? Function, right? Just so that we just spoke. And the other 2 are formulation, the planning. With corporate level, it is what industry should we be in and what geographic locations. And with business level is how do we compete in those chosen industries. Question 1. Bam. Yes. Next question. All right. Question 2, I won't go over as specific because it is pretty much straight out of the book. You need to know mission, vision, and value. Mission is who we are. was. Or you can say who we are. I like to say who we are. So mission define who the company is, what we do, why we exist. And we use the example of Disney and their mission statement being to make people happy. Very broad mission statement, but and customer oriented, but it gets at who they are. So everything that they do, all decisions that they make should flow out of that mission statement. If, for example, based off that mission statement, you should never see Disney in the grocery store business. If they do decide to buy Publix, then you would expect to see whatever they do with Publix to line up with, to make people happy. Something has to change. Maybe Mickey is a cashier or something, right? Or the employees have to dress up in characters. It has to be something that's aligned with that mission of to make people happy. Vision is who you aspire to be. It's a stretch goal. Is where you expect your company or you hope your company to be long-term, yes.
Is it necessary for mission statement to reflect things in the business thing?
No. And a mission statement can be two types. It can be customer-oriented or product-oriented. Right? So you'll see, in this case, Disney's mission statement is a customer-oriented mission statement. Right? It focuses on the customer. And typically, the better mission statements are customer-oriented. But you'll see mission statements that focus specifically on the product or service that the company provides. Maybe it's an air conditioning company and their mission statement says, we provide the most efficient, high quality, low cost heat pumps in the world. And that's their mission statement. Now, that's a very product-oriented mission statement. Now, take that mission statement and change it to a customer-oriented mission statement. It could be something like, we strive to ensure all Americans will live in a comfortable environment. See the difference? One's very product-oriented, one's very customer-oriented, and then it allows you to do more than just air conditioning. What else can make an environment comfortable for you?
Home improvement.
Home improvements, flooring, you know, you can get into other avenues of that idea of comfort, providing comfort to you. And values are, how do you do it? It's the behavior.
Which one?
Values. What activities do you do to reach these goals? I think we talked about Duke Energy or Duke Progress, or Progress Energy, whatever it may be, and coal ash issue, and whether or not that was legal or illegal, it was a cost of doing business. They had a choice on how to get rid of that waste. They could have gotten rid of it in a more environmental friendly way or manner, but they chose not to. So either way, they had to get rid of the waste. The values should dictate how you do it. Does that make sense? mission, mission, values. The attributes of a good leader are right in the book somewhere.
Page 29.
Page 29, thank you. Vision, eloquence, and consistency is 1. Articulation of the business model is 2. Commitment is 3. Being well informed is 4. Willingness to delegate and empower is 5. And the astute use of power is 6. And emotional intelligence is 7. I ask that you provide 4 of those attributes of the leader.
What page is that?
29. 32.
Now there's question 2.
So this for your strategy initiative is out of that area, the book, right?
Yes.
And then to explain it.
Just explain each one.
Okay,
Three, question 3, and the last question, identify and explain the forces in the macro environment, give an example of each force. You will be required to do 3 forces. 3 of the 6, I think. Global, macro environmental, no, macroeconomical, political and legal, technological, social, cultural, demographic. 3 of those. And you must explain the force, and then, remember we discussed that that force, the firm has to respond to that force. They can't, the force acts upon the organization. So give me an example of how a manager will respond to that force. For example, no one can use this example now, but I'm using this example. I have to because it's on tape. Okay, so for example, and no one will think of this. The oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, recent oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, where BP lost millions and billions of dollars, and the Gulf suffered enormous hardship, both economically and environmentally. As a result, it has caused oil companies to create more stringent standards on drilling to ensure that catastrophe like that never happened. So that was an environmental catastrophe that happened. This thing happened and it caused managers to respond in certain ways. You could also say with that same example that due to the oil spill, governments increased regulations on offshore drilling, which caused managers to have to change or redesign or restructure offshore drilling procedures. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So you want examples of companies and how they dealt with these? Okay.
Does that have to be real? It can be made up.
Oh,
And it's
okay.
gotta make sense.
Okay.
It's just gotta make sense. Okay. 3B, as we spoke before, this is the Porter's 5 forces question. Bargaining power of suppliers, bargaining power of buyers, threat of entry, and intensity of rivalry, threat of substitutes. That starts on page 48, 47. There's a big graph, figure 2.2. Risk, that was our risk of entry issue. We had a hard time with bargaining power of suppliers, bargaining power of buyers, threat of substitutes, and rivalry.
You said Bruce wants it, right?
Further, other questions?
Yeah.
Great. So, I think in class we use the example of the airline industry. And I told you certain things about the airline. This particular scenario, I said that this was the northeast regional corridor of the U.S. I told you who the competitors were in the industry, U.S. Airways, United, Delta, JetBlue, somebody else. And I told you who the suppliers were. I told you there were two major suppliers, and that was Airbus and Boeing. And I told you who the customers were, and that was business travelers. And the question is, and the question will be, you are an investor, you are looking at possibly investing in this industry. Please tell me why you would or would not invest in this industry based on Porter's competitive forces. In that case, I think we looked at, or give an example, I'm not going to go through all of them, but we talked about the threat of substitutes. We said that the threat of substitutes was high in the Northeast regional U.S., and that was why I said Northeast regional U.S., because of all the alternative routes of transportation. You could take a bus, you can do Amtrak, cities, for the United States, that is the most densely populated area. Cities are close, from DC to Philly to New York, separated by just a few hours. So instead of flying from Washington National to JFK, you could just get on Amtrak or take Greyhound and be there in about the same amount of time that you calculated in going to the airport, getting there an hour early, taking off all your clothes to get on the plane, being violated, getting there, getting a taxi or finding transportation, getting a rental car, and getting to whatever meeting or something that you had. So in that instance, we argued that the threat of substitutes is high, which means, is that good or bad for an investor? Bad. We're talking about there only being two suppliers, which means that these suppliers can control price, dictate price. People in the industry are captive to those suppliers, and because of that, that is bad for an investor looking to get into the industry. Any questions? Yes.
Okay, when we answer that question, do we have to tell you all those reasons, or just give you one?
All you, most of it.
Okay, all right.
You need to convince me that your argument is correct. Right. Yeah, okay, so going back to this, with this question specifically, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just your stance and you defend it.
Can you give us a comment?
Yes, I'll give you similar scenario, different industries, different things, but same stuff. Right. My goal is to get you to do more than just memorize definitions, to apply the knowledge. Right? Real world situation, like what would you do? Not that you have $10 million and you're looking to invest in the airline industry, but your company might, or your boss's boss might. And that, what is the thought process that goes on into that?
You can give us an in on the industry?
No.
Like automotive?
If you know Porter's Five Forces, or Porter's Forces, I got something about it. If you know Porter's Forces, you will be very comfortable with answering this question. One that we didn't talk about during class, I think, was complementers. So that same question, what would be a complementer to the airline industry?
Luggage?
Yeah, actually, I can see that. What's going on in the luggage industry, how are they redesigning bags to, especially with the 50-pound thing? Okay. The rental car industry is a complementer, whether or not airports have rental car locations on property or off property. Yes.
Hotels?
Hotels is a complementary to the airline industry. The actual airports themselves, right? The airlines don't own them. Whether or not they have space to add additional flights, additional planes, those are all complementary to the industry. So in that question, if you decide to use complementers as a reason, I just want to make sure you understand that is possible. You could say that the majority of airports no longer have hub space, which means I'll have to lobby governments or lobby municipalities to expand airports to areas that I want to fly to, which obviously will raise the barriers to entry and might deter me from going into that industry. That's how complementary could affect that decision.
So complementary is one of the forces.
Yes, it's
Okay.
On page 58. We didn't really talk about it. Yes,
Is a corporate company complementers?
yes. So, I'm trying to think of one with my example. The credit card companies, right? With many of them, you can get Air Miles or Capital One, I think, has a Sky Miles card or something. That's a complementary to the airline industry. It wouldn't surprise me if Capital One, one of the larger major credit card manufacturers, decided to get into the airline industry because in many ways they are tied to that process.
On the complimentary one, I'm a little stuck on, okay, I went the route of saying that I would not invest in it in that example. So how could I use that to make it still go with the question?
Well, the one I just said, that was a no, that the airports didn't have hub space.
Because the luggage part and rentals and the hotels will be a plus for me, because that would be advantageous.
Could be or it could not be. You could argue that airports around, or hotels around airports are not filling up to capacity, which suggests that there's not enough air travel or activity to support adding another airline to that airport. Or you could argue the other way, right? You can say that hotels at these various airports are consistently overbooked, which means there's a lot of travel to the airport, which also might mean that the airport might be willing to open up another hub or expand, similar to what RDU, flown there recently, they opened up a new terminal, which is huge. But I think they only have 2 airlines in it. So, okay, so that's a real world example. There's only 2 airlines, I think Southwest, is it Delta, that are in that new hub that opened up at RDU, or the new terminal that opened up at RDU. So as someone wanting to start an airline company, there's space. The Raleigh Transit, or Raleigh Airport Transit Authority, whatever their name is, wants to fill that terminal with airlines. Because if you go to Terminal 1, everybody else is there. So we named 2. Everybody else is at the other terminal. So that's a real world incentive for, they're looking for an airline to say, hey, I don't know if it's JetBlue or whoever, to add more flights to Raleigh, Durham. Yes.
Don't you gotta like buy more terminals? Like if you buy one in Raleigh, you gotta buy one in Atlanta also. You flying there.
Yep, it is. It depends on what routes you want to fly, right? Take Southwest, for example. Southwest is a very, very young airline company. They started out in the Southwest at small regional airports. They didn't go into the larger airports because they had to get terminal space. And they, similar to Walmart, they went where the other airlines didn't want to go. Again, finding that void in the marketplace. Why did Walmart grow so fast? They didn't go to Little Rock, Arkansas. They went to all the small rural towns and communities where people were tired of driving all the way into Little Rock to get their services. I can remember when Laurinburg got Walmart. And we were so happy. We were so tired of driving to Fayetteville, which was 40-something miles away. And that Walmart was always full. Again, fill a void that exists in the market. We're going to stop there. That's going to be the test. I don't think we're going to have time to do the last question. So by stopping there, I expect 1, 2, 3, A and B to be done really well. So I don't want 2-sentence answers on the other questions. So industry life cycle was not the only not. Yes. No. Any other? All right, I will bring paper, an answer form for you to fill out on Monday, so you don't need to bring anything but something to write. And I prefer you not bring anything but something to write. No, not. All right, thank you very much.